Hey, Buddy Manning here, Noah Dalzell from Madison Square Garden, where the Celtics got back on track with a first win in the series, finally. They hold on to a 20-point lead. They actually pushed it to 30 in that
31.
second half. 31, and only got down to 20 as the Knicks pushed back there in the second half. Celtics weren't at their best offensively in the second half. Third quarter was better than the fourth, but they just built such a massive lead and shot so well from three in this game. Certainly, we knew that was going to be the factor that turned them around if they were going to win a game here. And good to see it happen in game 3 versus game 4, because 3-0 was going to be insurmountable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a couple keys to this game. One, obviously shots were falling that weren't falling in the previous two games. Joe stressed two other things post-game that I do think were big differences here. The live ball turnovers and the close of quarters. And I think you saw them close quarters really well in this game, and that's kind of how they were able to maintain that lead. But overall, I mean, there was a lot of pressure on them. They can talk about whether or not they notice it. I know they try to block out the noise, and they've been here before, and all those things are true. But they, regardless of the media and the fans and all that, they know that they had two games in their hands that they let slip through. And they were back in the same position, up by 20. And I don't think any Celtics fan in the world felt good when they were up by 20, in the sense of, like, we all have just seen this movie play out twice now in two games, and they handled it completely differently. And they made timing plays, and the same fourth quarters that I watched at home over and over again, trying to figure out what went wrong, those momentum plays, they made them in this game. And they're going to have to keep doing that to win the series.
And they maintained their pace. They kept confidence in the three-pointer, which I was worried about coming out of those first two games with all the noise. Good to see so many guys on the team saying that's who we are and that's what we got to continue to do here. That's what made me feel good at that practice the other day, as I was mentioning reasons that I still thought the Celtics would win this series. They're going to keep shooting those threes, and they have to. The Knicks are packing the paint. They're keeping guys in there to push Tatum and Brown out. And I guess that's one thing you can look at here and say, all right, maybe it's not 100% back as Tatum's play. Not his best. He made shots, but still not able to fully get into the paint area, still not able to hit those in-between twos, which have been a major issue for him in this series. His post-game today, you even felt that he's not vindicated by this bounce-back game. There's still a lot he has to do better, and he embraced the criticism after this game too, saying there are opportunities where I have to do more for this team. But the key for him and Brown, who was sloppy at times early even though he was shooting well, just defer to other guys. Pritchard can run some sets. Holiday can get into the pocket and make a play. Even Porzingis in this one, who we'll get to in a minute. Giving him the ball and letting him draw the defense in is a good move for them right now, as long as the ball keeps moving. And in this game, it did a much better job spreading out to all the different guys.
And I think the reality is that those other guys, maybe for some teams, you rely on your couple stars, and the other guys are, once in a while, they give you something. This team is constructed for the other guys to have a massive part in your success on both ends of the floor. And obviously, they struggled in games 1 and 2 for the most part as a role, player cast. You saw guys like Al Horford, massive bounce back, went 2 of 11 in game 2, 6 of 9 in game 3. So, those are the kinds of things that are going to swing the series. Peyton Pritchard had his best game of the series, 23 points for him on high efficiency. That's what they're going to need.
Shout
right?
out to you for
They need those other guys. Yeah, I don't want to take the credit here, but I definitely think that more minutes for Pritchard is a good thing right now, because he is a release valve for them offensively, right? So it's just, they need those other guys to play well. They can't do it alone. It's not Superman here. They're playing against another team that has good role players as well. In this game, Celtics role players outplayed New York's. But it's going to continue to be a full team effort, especially because you're down Sam Hauser. He's missed the last 2 games here. And then you're also down Kristaps Porzingis from the version that you had during the season. You're seeing a different player right now, a guy that is much more limited in his stamina and his offensive impact, but he's still giving you what he has. And I think that what he has right now is still contributing to winning. It's just not at the same level.
What's your confidence level that they're back when we're talking about all this different stuff here? Are they back?
It's hard to say. I do think that they've been here the whole series, right? It's not like we didn't see.
Not in the fourth quarters.
Not in the fourth quarter. So do I have more faith that they're going to hold on to their 20-point leads if they get another one in game 4? Yes, I do. I also had it in game 2. I had it in game 2. Game 2, when they had the 20-point lead, I'm like, I'm sure they're all saying to each other, we're not going to do it again. And then it happened, right? So I'm not going to say all their problems are solved because they were able to do this in game 3. But hey, down 2-1 is a very, you're within reach of tying the series. You win game 4 now. You have the momentum heading back to Boston. I think there's a lot more pressure on New York. So they're in a much better spot. Not just the fact that they won this game, but they won it in a pretty devastating way for New York. They dominated every quarter. They dominated all aspects of this game.
They never really demoralized this crowd.
And I still think there's a lot better that they have another level they can reach, because like you said, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they weren't their best. So New York's going to have things that they're going to get better at heading into this next game, but it's not like the Celtics played their best basketball and they still blew them out. So
yeah, and there was pressure on the Knicks early in this game, I felt like, too. That's a part of going to MSG now, because you're up 2-0. The fans are expecting you to close this thing out, give them a win here. And so I think it shifted over them. Porzingis said that after the last game. They're the favorites now.
The betting odds.
And I think he was right. Yeah, I think you felt it here. They missed some shots early that rimmed out, or they missed some point-blank layups that allowed the Celtics to take a quick double-digit lead there. So I think that was a factor here, too. I mean, the seats were going for $700. People thought this was going to be the biggest game since the 90s for this team. Everyone's outside celebrating and, enjoying the sun, and then crowding in here and going nuts. But the Celtics quieted them so early, and that was why I felt so good about them coming here, because there was no pressure.
They love playing on the road. I mean, there was a lot of pressure, though. It's a different feeling when you don't have an arena full of fans that are gasping at every miss
and expecting you to be great.
Obviously, home court advantage is real. We're seeing it shake out in these playoffs in the last few years that it doesn't really line up the way you would expect.
All the road teams are winning.
Yeah, but I think there's something to be said when, first of all, when you're blowing a lead, your crowd is like freaking out, right? And in TD Garden in the fourth quarter, you had the most nervous, terrible energy. I don't blame the fans because it's human nature.
And then Brunson,
but you're not making it easier. You're not making it easier for them.
Yeah.
I thought you had that same impact on the other side today, where so much energy, like you said, and then New York comes out so flat, and suddenly it's worse than being on the road, right? They're like, oh shoot, like these fans are like oohing and ahhing at every miss, and
it got really quieter and quieter and quieter, and there was a little pop in the second half.
Loudest cheer of the night. I don't know if you clocked it. The loudest cheer of the night was Mitchell Robinson's swish free throw.
That was another part of this game. A little asterisk note there. The Packer Robinson thing worked this time, and it did impact the crowd. It did impact the Knicks. I feel like that built on what was already going on there, and so credit to Joe for that. He stuck with it. It worked this time, but you probably just want to use it in the bonus.
Yeah, and I think they're probably going to continue to be strategic with when they use it. But hey, I think he probably came to the conclusion that it was so resounding, the decision to, it was so overwhelmingly positive from an analytics standpoint, that even if it didn't always make sense to us, to fans, to outsiders, like the process was going to be the process. And I think in games 1 and 2, there were moments where it was like, oh my gosh, do something else. But it worked out here. But I think the thing that gives me the most confidence in this team right now is that they've literally led the series for all but 12 minutes. And I saw a stat that in games 1 and 2, they were trailing for a combined 12 minutes. It's the first time in NBA history that a team has won both games in the beginning of a series while only leading for 12 minutes. And so overall, they've dominated the series with the exception of 2 stretches. Like, that's it.
So crazy to me, too, because I look back at the Pistons' next series. That series finished tied, 278 to 278. And so small swings, 3 points per 100 in crunch time, swung that series to Knicks in 6.
You got to stay out of crunch time with New York. They're a crunch time team. Their goal is to get you to crunch time, and then they have Jalen Brunson, and they have guys that are not as afraid of the moment. And so, no knock on the Celtics, no knock on the Pistons, but you have to keep them out of crunch time because that's what they're going for. Like, they're not trying to. They haven't blown anybody out. They don't blow teams out. They get to that moment, and then they outplay you in those final minutes.
And they stay in the game. Like, even the second half, it goes from 30 to 20. Credit to the Celtics for not letting it get any closer than that, but they made some pushes here. They just didn't get there, and the Celtics called timeouts to cut them off, made baskets, free throws, all these little things they did, offensive rebounds. And you said eliminating the turnover is crucial as well to not allow the Knicks to run out there. So all that was important. Shout out to Prize Picks. Go over there, use code CLNS, get a $50 bonus when you play a $5 lineup right now. Big reason we're able to cover games on the road like this. So show them some support, and you and a friend could win a trip to the chip when you play over there. So go and get in on that. The whole playoffs, so that's going on right now, as well as great stuff like the Flex Friday and Taco Tuesday and all of that. So use code CLNS over there. Prize Picks, run your game. Last thing I want to hit on here is Porzingis. Better. I felt like I was a little higher on it than you. I feel like you could feel his presence out there at least, and I think that's why they keep going to him right now. Not only keep him involved, but also work him back closer to where he was, and he did play 5 more minutes in this game. I feel like he was able to pass out of the post, which is probably something he wants to do if he's not going to be able to hit shots over those guys right now. Got to the free throw line. That was the first time I saw him actually make a move to score from himself and succeed, and he missed a free throw. So it was like, oh, there was so many moments in this game where you're just like, this is tough to watch right now, but you feel Joe sensing that it's important to keep him involved and show teammates that he's fighting through this and giving it his all. I think Kristaps really wants to show that too, despite what he's going through. But it is going to be a fine line for the rest of the series. You're still trailing. You still need to win every game here. And he is like right on that line of hurting you and helping you, it feels like. And they have to make some tough decisions really after that first in of whether they're going to stick with him. And it was a good move to stick with him tonight. He was plus 11.
Yeah, I think the reality with Porzingis at this current moment, and that could change in either direction at any point, is that he's not the offensive force that he was during the regular season, where he was averaging 19.5 points per game
He's
on like
so
49% shooting.
it.
Like, he's not that guy right now. But who is he? Is he somebody that can impact winning? I think we've seen that in these past few games. Even in game 2, obviously they lose. The story's not about the 14 minutes that he played. He had some really big plays that would have become a much bigger part of the story if they held on to that lead, right? So I think right now Joe's looking at who does he have available. He doesn't have Sam Hauser. He has a version of Porzingis that's limited, maybe a version of a few other guys that are limited. We don't know the extent of what's bothering Tatum, Holiday, Brown.
I couldn't believe we were in
the
the locker room before the game. The amount of tape, the amount of
I know we have no
accessories.
idea. Like, normally they do the training and the physical therapy things outside of our view. In New York, the locker room is so small, and so they're doing everything in front of us. You realize how much these guys are going through. Jalen's ankles are taped completely, like a million
Both of
layers.
them.
Both of them, right? And he's never even been on the injury report for
Hauser,
anything ankle related.
The stretches he was
So it's
doing
like-
were unimaginable.
Yeah, and I actually think Hauser is going to come back in the series.
It looks like he's working hard toward
He's
it.
working hard. Yeah, he's doubtful. He was doubtful heading to these last 2 games. He's never been scratched out altogether. I think he's going to come back in one of these next few games here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We are going to get a Zoom session with the team, so I'll be interested to hear how much progress he made today, because it did look like he was pushing, and then when he was on the trainer's table, he got ruled out there. Porzingis, ton of treatment. Still see some exasperation on his face when he's sitting in the locker room or even just out on the floor. Well, I've seen him chit-chat with Jalen a little bit, but you just don't see the same joy. You just don't see the same cheeriness from him that you usually do. I know some people are talking about him looking a little pale or skinny or whatever it is. I don't really see that. But he just doesn't look like himself out there. And I don't know how you end up crashing like this for a series on a dime. But that's where he's at, and I don't know how likely it is he's going to pull out of it. But tonight, I would say he played through it better. It didn't look like he was any less tired and fatigued and winded than
I think
he
he's
has been
giving this everything he
previously.
has. For the people that have been complaining about him or doubting his desire.
That's why
to
he's doing it, right? He doesn't want to be seen as weak.
I don't think just that. I think also he just wants to, do what he can to help this team
Yep.
win. And so it's going to look different. Like, I think we all have to change our expectations of what he's going to contribute on right now, unless he goes back to full health, and then obviously those expectations rise. But you'll take something out of him, right? And you'll take what you can get. I thought Luke
And
gave
you
some good
can't
minutes.
put it all on Al as they did in game 2. You
that's
just
the thing.
can't. So that's where he's at. That's where we're at. We're going to stay in New York and cover this game 4 that is still super important. Celtics have to carry this effort forward and probably play a little bit better to be able to maintain a lead in that game in the second half. They had some lapses there, but shooting 50% from 3 and building a 30-point lead helps you maintain an advantage in a game like that. There'll probably be a smaller one looking forward that they have to maintain there. But again, my biggest confidence in them winning the series is that they are up 20 in every game. That just tells me, along with the time of leading that you mentioned, that they're the better team here. And fans had a right to be outraged about them blowing those first 2 games because it left them such little room for error going forward, even though they are that better team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, everybody expected this Celtics team to be able to defeat the Knicks pretty handily. You're seeing why, right? Like, tonight's game showed you why. The 20-point lead showed you why. The question is, are they going to be able to keep their foot on the gas the way they did tonight? New York's going to come back fighting way harder, I think, in game 4. This was a really hard game for the Knicks with so much excitement, so much, it's like you're set up for a letdown game. They're going to be in a little bit of a better spot in game 4 in New York, and so I think the Celtics have to come in and do everything they did today, but even better. So we'll see how it goes, but certainly very different. We would be sitting here talking 3-0. We'd be talking a much different conversation than the one we're having right now.
Coming into this one, it was win 4 or 5. Now, what is it? Win 3 out of 4?
3 out of 4.
Small room for error, but they're capable of it. Game 4 is Monday. We'll be here for that. Game 5 is now scheduled for 7 back in Boston. There will be a game 5, so we will be back in Boston, which always throws the.
I was scared that was going to be our last time at TD Garden, so we will be back.
I want to hear you pick the Celtics over
Oh,
the
I'm
next
picking the
day or
Celtics
so.
right now.
There we go.
Yeah,
confidence restored in Noah. So
I had a little bit of an inflammatory initial reaction, but even after rewatching those 2 games, I was like, they should be able to come away here. So
big picture though, we'll see what this leads to. That's it for us tonight. Game 4 again Monday. We'll have coverage of that. There's a Zoom session tomorrow. We'll have some updates from the Celtics on the health and all of that as well. And for Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning here from Madison Square Garden in New York City with continued coverage of the Celtics Knicks series.